Hello and welcome to Likhawat. I am Gautam Chaube, your host, and this is a show about the books of Bharat. The book this week is Gajapati, A King Without a Kingdom. And joining us in the studio to discuss the book is its author, Ashok Kumar Bola. Ashok ji, welcome to the show.
Welcome, thank you.
Ashok ji, let's start with the very first question. The king of Puri, Gajapati king and Bhubaneswar and the temple of Jagannath holds an important place in the Odia imagination. What motivated you to write this book?
See, there were several motivations, but I must tell you, Gajapati king was a childhood fascination for me. When I was studying in school, our teacher used to talk about Kapilendra Deva. The Kapilendra Deva is the greatest Gajapati. In fact, during his regime, the Odisha kingdom was straight from Ganga to Kaveri. Right. So that was the largest kingdom at that time. And our teacher used to tell us to remember the title of Gajapati. It's a very long title. And he used to ask us to cram the title and reproduce it. I'll just tell you the title. Yeah, the title of Gajapati, which is even holds today, it is called Sri Veera Sri Gajapati Gaudeshwara Navakoti Karnatotkala Kalabargeshwara Veeradhi Virabara Bhuta Bhairava Sadhu Sasunatirna Rauta Raja Atula Bala Parakrama Sahasra Bahu Kshatriya Kula Dhumaketu Maharaja Dhiraj. So this is the title.
And you asked to remember it, word for word.
Because he used to take pride in the ancient Odishan king, that is called Kapilendra Deva. So we used to take a lot of pride. But those were the formative years of our education, so we did not understand the title. But later on, I could know that every word in this title has a significant meaning. So that is as far as the first point is concerned. And second is, see my palm leaf horoscope, which was made by our village Pandit after my birth. When I saw my palm leaf horoscope, I found, among other things, the name of the reigning Gajapati, Birakeshari Dev, along with his regnal year, which is called Anka, was mentioned. I was intrigued as to why in my horoscope the name of Gajapati is mentioned. Later on, I came to know that this was a tradition in Odisha, that when a child is born, among other things, the name of the Gajapati and his regnal year is mentioned, showing an intimate bond between Gajapati and the people of Odisha. So I was wondering as to why his name is there. That is a motivation for me to learn more about Gajapati. Third thing, let me also tell you, when we were a child, there was no TV, so there was only radio. We used to listen to radio commentary of Rath Yatra. We were eagerly listening and waiting for the movement that is called Chera Pohara, when Gajapati sweeps the floor of the chariots, and that is the most important function of the Rath Yatra.
With a broom made of gold.
Broom made of gold. They were sweeping. So we were wondering, a king also sweeps. Later on, the significance, as I grew, I understood the significance of this function. So these are the childhood memories which were imprinted in my mind about Gajapati. And let me also tell you, there is a beautiful drama called Kanchi Kaveri. Right. So this is about Gajapati Purushottama Dev attack, conquering the Salwa king Narasingha Dev, and then bringing the Kanchi Ganesh along with the daughter of Kanchi king, Rupambika, who was later known as Padmavati.
Kanchi Ganesh is the famous idol inside the campus of Jagannath's temple.
That's right. So these childhood memories had a great impact and a lingering influence on me, and which propelled me to do more research on the Gajapati, both as a persona as well as an institution. Hence this book.
In fact, I belong to a generation that grew up watching the telecast on Doordarshan. And the sight of a king brooming the floor of a chariot was equally fascinating for us.
Absolutely.
But there's another very fascinating aspect of the book, which is the title itself. You've titled the book A King Without a Kingdom. Why is that?
See, the title, A King Without a Kingdom, may appear paradoxical,
Yes.
but the fact of the matter is that this title is true. Even before Ganga dynasty, Yajati Kesari, he treated Purushottam as the real lord, and he is just his deputy.
Right.
Gangas treated Lord Jagannath as the presiding deity of the state.
The Ganga dynasty came from Andhra Telangana region.
Yeah, that's right. The famous Ganga king, in fact, Chodaganga Dev started the construction of the temple. Ananga Bhima Dev III, the new temple I mean to say, Ananga Bhima Dev III, another very famous Ganga king, he declared Jagannath to be the lord of the sovereign, he is the sovereign king of the state, Odisha, and he himself, the king himself, was his Rauta.
Right.
Rauta means his vassal.
Right.
In fact, from Ananga Bhimadev III onwards, Ganga kings never celebrated coronation ceremony.
Right.
Because they recognized the state and the seat belonged to Lord Jagannath. Then comes Kapilendra Deva. Kapilendra Deva declared himself as an elect of Lord Jagannath. And since he is not from a Ganga dynasty, he is from a different dynasty, he treated himself as a servant or sebak of Lord's, and in fact he thought he donated everything to Lord Jagannath. And in fact Jagannath, he said that he is the king and I am only his carrier of his message.
Right.
So he treated himself as a sebak. As a matter of fact, the concept of Adya Sebak came as a result of he treating as himself sebak and putting in himself in the framework of the service structure of the Lord Jagannath temple. So never ever the kings have treated themselves as kings. Okay. So this is why, I have used this word, the title, as a king without a kingdom. And let me tell you, Ananga Bhima Dev III, the Bhuvaneshwar inscription, he says this is Purushottama Samrajya. That means the empire belongs to Purushottama, that is Lord Jagannath. See, there are a lot of inscriptions, I am not getting into this, which establish emphatically that the kings never treated themselves as kings.
How interesting is that? But what is the significance of the title Gajapati itself?
See, Gajapati is a very interesting title. In fact, Hindu kings, there are 4 royal princely titles of Hindu kingdoms. It's called Narapati, Aswapati, Chhatrapati and Gajapati. Gajapati's title belonged to Utkalakhand. That means the kings of Odisha were known as Gajapati. That is the lord of elephants. Why elephants? In fact, Odisha was a famous place for war elephants.
Right.
If you see Raghuvansam, there is a reference when Hemangada, the Kalinga princess, is coming for the Swayamvar, there is wide-scale references on the elephants of Odisha in Kalidas text. Kautilya's Astra-Shastra, it is said that war elephants of Odisha are the fabled elephants and best in the country. Huensang, during his travel, he has also discussed about the elephants of Odisha. Then Abul Fazl's book, there is, and many Muslim Mughal texts, they have made wide references to the elephants of Odisha. As a matter of fact, the Odisha elephants are so prized and fabled that in exchange of territories, the elephants were given. So there are historical evidences to that. So Gajapati, because of that, because of the importance of elephants, the Odisha's kings were called Gajapati. And let me tell you, Chodoganga Dev, the great Ganga king, Runanki inscription says he is referred to as Naba Nabati Sahasra Gunjaradhishwara. That means he had an army of 99,000 elephants. So this is about the elephants. And let me tell you about Gajapati. See, Gajapati as a title, Narasimha Dev I is the first Ganga king who used this title. Subsequent Ganga kings, someone said Gajadhipati, some says Gajapatis, some say Gajadhisha, some say Gajapati. But as far as Kapilendra Deva is concerned, Suryavamsa king Kapilendra Deva, he used this term Gajapati with grandeur and glory. And all subsequent kings after Kapilendra Deva, they have been terming themselves as Gajapati. So this is a continuous tradition from Kapilendra Deva onwards.
Right. In one of the chapters, you describe Raja Mukunda Dev as the last independent Hindu king. Why is that?
1568 is the turning point in Odisha's history. At that time, Mukunda Dev was the last Gajapati. I mean, he was the Gajapati.
Turning point in what sense?
Turning point in the territorial decline of Odisha. Mukunda Dev was the king, Gajapati. The Suleiman Karnani, the Afghans, attacked, and Mukunda Dev, because of treachery, was defeated and killed. And then Afghans came to Odisha. The Gajapati of Odisha was reduced to the status of Raja of Khurda. My point is why it is a turning point. Because in 1568, along with this attack, the Puri temple, Jagannath temple, was the center of attention and was the center of attack by Kala Pahad. So this was a devastating impact on Odisha, because the whole faith, it is an attack on the faith of the Odisha people, and it was an attack on spirituality, it was an attack on, the astha, you can say, of Odisha. So, and subsequently, the Mughals came. 1607, Odisha was declared as a, independent Suba. Then 1751, Marathas came. Then 1803, British came. And 1807, Raja of Khurda. Initially it was Gajapati, then Raja of Khurda, then he became an insignificant Jamindar. Then he was Raja of Puri. And then finally in 1807, he was a titular superintendent of temple.
Right.
So once the kingdom, which was there from Ganga to Kaveri, was reduced to a territory with nothing, zero territory. So 1568, that way, as I said, it was a turning point in the history of Odisha.
And that is why Mukunda Dev is the last independent
king. And thereafter, the small kings were there. But they were nevertheless known as Gajapatis.
Right. There's another very interesting chapter on Rani Suryamani Dei, whom you describe as a woman extraordinaire. Can you tell us a bit about her story?
See, Rani Suryamani Patama Dei, in the right sense, is called the most important figure in the Odishan history, Gajapati history. Because she, at a very young age of about 17, 18, she became a widow. Then, immediately before the death of her husband, who was the Gajapati Birakeshwar Dev, they adopted a 4-year child. He's called Dibya Singh Dev. And Dibya Singh Dev, during her minority, Rani was the de facto custodian of the temple and de facto superintendent of the temple. Then Dibya Singh Dev, when he became a major in 1874, but then immediately he was an unruly fellow. He was convicted of a murder case, Sivadas murder case, famous murder case, and that went up to the Privy Council. Then he was deported to Andamans in 1878. Then there was a void. When Dibba Singh Dev was deported, there was a void. Though he had a minor son, the British government thought it as an opportunity to take over the temple. So British government decided to appoint a committee of trustee, rejecting her appeal to make her the minor, the king, minor, Mukunda Dev. So this was a very, very prolonged case. And then he, along with Madhusudan Das, fought the case. And Madhusudan Das, though he was a Christian, but then his contribution to Oriya nationalism and for re-establish and to establish the primacy of Gajapati has no parallel. So then she won the case, and she galvanized the masses, all the sections of the society, and I must say this was one of the earliest instances of Odia nationalism. In fact, Jagannath temple was used as a laboratory for Indian nationalism or Odisha nationalism. So, Suryamani Pattamahadi is famous for her struggle, for her fighting against the British. That's number one. Secondly, Suryamani Pattamahadi is an exception to the law of primogeniture.
Right.
That is, when Dibba Singh Dev died. When Dibba Singh Dev was a minor, she acted as a guardian. Then when Dibba Singh Dev deported, Mukunda Dev was a minor. She was the de facto, the guardian and the de facto superintendent temple. In the history of Gajapati, for 34 years, she managed the temple. There is no parallel. Secondly, you see, this is despite the huge handicap. Right. She is called the Asurjam Pasya. In her whole life, except her blood relations, she has never seen the face of a male person. Right. Can you believe? When Madhusudan Das used to come, she used to talk to him behind a parda. So she was Asurjam Pasya. But in spite of that handicap, she proved herself a woman extraordinary. And finally, let me tell you, she is one person who, when she came, she saw Ramachandra Dev, her father-in-law.
Right.
Then Birakishore Dev was her husband, the Gajapati. Then after Birakishore Dev, Dibya Singh Dev, he saw. After Dibya Singh Dev, the Mukunda Dev, grandson. And after Mukunda Dev, the Ramachandra Dev, in 1926, she was the coronation of Ramachandra Dev. And in November 26, she died. She is one person who has seen from one Ramachandra Dev to another Ramachandra Dev. So there is no exception, there is no parallel to this. So she is one of the finest examples of women fighters in the history of Orissa, Gajapati history of Orissa.
There's another very fascinating chapter on a city that I really love, Cuttack. You have described many names that were given to Cuttack, one among which is Banaras Cuttack. Can you tell us a bit about it?
See, Cuttack, let me tell you, when the Puri was the religious and spiritual capital of the state, Cuttack was the imperial and the administrative capital. So the Ganga.
Where was Bhubaneswar all this while?
Bhubaneswar was a calm, quiet city. Bhubaneswar was a city of temples.
Right.
Okay. See, as far as Cuttack is, it's one of the oldest cities. And Ananga Bhimadev III, in fact, he set up this city. As a matter of fact, Chodaganga Dev shifted his capital from Mukhalingam in Srikakulam district to Cuttack. That was a strategic decision because they thought they should be closer to the spiritual capital, the Lord Jagannath, and at the same time they thought that administratively this was a very important place, and strategically from a military welfare point of view also it was a very, very important place. Why? Because
this Mahanadi.
You see, because you see, there are various types of Durgas described in our text. This is this second best type of Durgas. It is called Jala Durga. Jala Durga means it is between Mahanadi and Katijodi. So this is protected by from two sides, these rivers. So in fact, Baravati is there. And as far as Abhinav Cuttack is concerned, actually it is called Abhinav Banarasi Cuttack. And Cuttack, actually, one should understand what is the implication of Cuttack, meaning of Cuttack. Cuttack actually is sort of a fort. Cuttack means fort. And there are 5 different forts which constituted, the areas of defense for the state. So Gangas, actually 14 generations of Gangas served from Cuttack. Then only in 1803, Mukundadev, in fact Mukundadev, the last king, he made Baravati, he improved Baravati. There were 9 stories, there are 9 storied, it was 9 storied, or there are 9 chambers. 1768, when some English visitors visited, they have also described in their book, in their travel
and how every chamber, one chamber was reserved for cattle and horses.
Like that.
Then for the army, the king lived right on the top.
See, there are different variations of this. People say there were 9 stories. Some say there are 9 chambers. But the point is, the Baravati, I always say, it's a pride and also prison. It was a pride for the state. But 1803, the British attacked Cuttack, and particularly the Baravati. And Baravati fort was reduced to ashes. Today, whatever you are seeing of Baravati, this is a semblance of Baravati you are seeing. And in fact, Baravati, today the way it stands, it is a weeping witness to a glorious past.
Ashokji, there are other books on this subject as well. I'm sure, this subject is so central to Odia and Indian imagination. What makes your book stand out?
The question is excellent. See, there are many fabulous books on Gajapati. In fact, Prabhat Mukherjee's book, and secondly, there is a book of R. Subramaniam, which is his PhD thesis of Voltaire University. Right. It was written in 50s or 60s. And there is a book by Kedarnath Mahapatra, Khurda Itihas. Right. So these are very good books. And in fact, I have made copious reference to these books in my book. But then, as you said, what is so different about this book? See, it will be an exaggeration if I say that I have written something very great. Then, there will be an element of pride in saying so. And but then, humbly I can say that this book is different because I have focused on one institution called Gajapati.
Right.
Okay. And this why Gajapati? Because Gajapati today, has a ritual association with the temple. And that ritual association makes him very unique and distinct. Even though he is a king without kingdom, but in the people's esteem, he is revered like God. In fact, he is called the Chalanti Vishnu. He is called the living embodiment of Lord Vishnu. So when the people see, people prostrate and give, pay their respects. So that is the kind of respects which no king, territorial king or whatever king, or the usual trappings of a king, right, those who have, they don't command. So he is a unique Gajapati. He is a unique king. So that institution I have said. And secondly, let me tell you why I wrote this book. Because you see, if you see the history we study in schools or colleges, this is a curriculum driven history. But the history of India is not the history we study in curriculum alone. The history of India is about its people and places, religion and royalty, towns and villages, temples and monuments, tradition and culture, language and literature. So this is a very small attempt on my part to present the regional history so that people would come to know about this great institution. So this is how I think I have been trying to project. And finally, let me tell you, the history needs to be told in a manner in which people understand. Okay. So I have presented this in a manner where an average reader can take up any chapter and read.
I found it immensely readable, very lucid.
That is what I have tried to reach to maximum people.
Right.
And let me tell you, everything I have written is based on documents,
Yes.
historical records, epigraphic records, and then texts.
Absolutely. I would highly recommend this book to our viewers. Finally, Ashok ji, in दिनों आप क्या लिख रहे हैं?
See, in fact, today my book was released in India International Center. This is called A Various World. This book is about, this is actually a collection of stories which pertain to incidents, people, places. These are all real life stories. And this is based on my interaction, association, feelings, and observation. So I have written this book, and see, there is one book which I am doing currently. This is about a dictionary project.
Oh.
So I am little fascinated by the lexicography. When I was working on my Gajapati book, I read A.L. Bhasam's book.
Right.
There is a reference that Pune,
Cultural history of India.
the wonder that was India.
Wonder that was India.
Yes. See, when I was reading that book, there is a reference that Pune Sanskrit Dictionary, when it gets completed, it is going to be the biggest wonder of lexicography in the world.
Right.
Okay. So I am writing a book on that Sanskrit dictionary project, which is called Encyclopedic Dictionary of Sanskrit on Historical Principles.
Wow.
This is being written for last 76 years, and you'll be amazed to know that up till now the first alphabet is not over. It is covering a period from Rigveda till Hasyarnava.
Right.
So people do not know such a treasure is under process. So I am writing a general book for the general reader about that project.
How wonderful, Ashok ji. आज आप हमारे साथ जुड़े and you took us through this fascinating book and also on the projects that you are working on. We're very grateful to you.
Thank you. Jai Jagannath.
जय जगन्नाथ. Thank you viewers. मुझे उम्मीद है आज का शो आपको बहुत पसंद आया होगा. To watch our previous episodes, you can go to the YouTube channel and post your comments there. I'm Gautam Chaubey, your host. You keep watching Sansad TV. Namaste.